These days, people change jobs a lot, and sometimes the employer has good education and a good 401k, sometimes they don't. You cannot count on that. So we're going to give you the tools and the knowledge that it will take to make sure that you are mastering your 401k in a very simple way. Actually, I call this cleaning up your 401k in less than an hour. There's $2.1 trillion in forgotten 401k assets spread across 31.9 million accounts that have been left behind. The other crazy statistic around left behind 401ks is that the number of forgotten accounts has almost doubled over the last decade, mainly due to job changes and layoffs.
Welcome to Catching Up to FI, a podcast on mindset, money, and life for late starters of any age on their journey to financial independence. I'm Bill, and I'm a late starter.
I'm Jackie, and I'm also a late starter, and we're your host. We're here to help you on your journey to financial independence, no matter where you're starting.
We're going to talk to experts, other late starters, and explore topics related to our mission.
Join us as we catch up to FI together.
Hello, and welcome back to Catching Up to FI. I'm Bill Yah with Jackie Cummins-Koski, and it is April 1st, Financial Literacy Month. And what bugs Jackie more than anything lately? It's the messy 401k. She's on a mission to clean these suckers up. And today we're going to help you navigate that alphabet soup of your 401k so that it's simple, easy, straightforward, and you can do this. Jackie, why does this messy 401k thing really bug you?
Something that has happened recently in the last couple of years is that I have helped a lot of people navigate their 401k, friends, family, colleagues, and it's really frustrating to see how poorly some of these are put together, how confusing they are, how complex they are. And employees are very frustrated with most 401ks. If you have a good one where you get education, that is great. So it's just hard to make sense of these. And I know you've had people to ask you about helping with their 401k. I've had that. So I want us in a very clean and concise way to step through, here are the things you need to look for in a 401k and how to clean it up. And so that's why we're calling this the Great 401k Cleanup.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with Jackie. My kids are in the workforce now. They're in their 20s. This is when these issues come up. And I've had to sit down with them and navigate these things. And we're going to go through the basic steps you need to take to get your retirement set up for success.
That's right. And as you mentioned, April is Financial Literacy Month. For me, it's almost like Christmas. I love Financial Literacy Month. And this is the time where I do most of my giving back by way of education. And because the 401k is the basis for a lot of people's retirement, more so than ever before. So when I'm talking about 401ks, I'm also including similar plans, similar employer-sponsored plans like the Thrift Savings Plan, the TSP, the 403B, the 457. So all the things that we're going to be talking about will apply to those as well. We're not really talking about a lot of tax treatment or anything like that, but just how to understand your statement, how to go in, make changes, and just clean up that messy 401k. So I created a very friendly and straightforward guide, and it is completely independent of an employer or custodian, because these days people change jobs a lot, and sometimes the employer has good education and a good 401k, sometimes they don't. You cannot count on that. So we're going to give you the tools and the knowledge that it will take to make sure that you are mastering your 401k in a very simple way. Actually, I call this cleaning up your 401k in less than an hour. And the guide that I created takes you through, each piece tells you about how long it will take you to get through it. And we're going to make 2026 the year that you clean up that messy 401k. So here are the things you will be able to do by the time we get done, okay? You're going to better understand your 401k. You're going to be more clear about the most important parts of the account. And then you're just going to feel a lot more empowered to use it as the wealth building tool as it was designed to be. For a lot of people, it's not feeling that way because they're so confused. So, Bill, my partner, let's get into it.
All right, Jackie, I'm on this ride with you. I'm going to do what I can to augment it, but this is your passion. The very first thing you wanted people to do is just access this from home. Why is that so important?
Yeah, that's so important. And just a quick reminder that everything we talk about today is for education and information purposes only. So, the reason why I want you to get access from home is because you're more likely to be focused and you can take your time. Every 401k plan allows you to create a sign on to get access online via an app. And that's what I suggest. And once you get that access, one of the first things is you need to find that little governing document that tells everything you need to know about the plan, all the rules and regulations. It's called a summary plan description, long name, but basically it's everything you need to know about your 401k. So that is the first thing.
These documents are important. They're unwieldy, and you need to print it out, store it, and read it in all sort of patience. One of the hacks I thought of today was that if you want to ask your summary plan document a specific question, you could take that PDF and put it in Google Notebook LLM, upload it there, and then ask that AI source, okay, I need to know about this because I'm 25. These are my circumstances. What does the plan say applies to me?
Yeah, and Bill, you love AI, I love AI, and we know it's everywhere. So that will be a little bit of the theme here to say you don't need to be a genius. You don't need to read through that big summary plan description because nobody's going to read it anyway. But there are tools now to make that part super easy. It will take you 5 minutes to do this first step, accessing your account from home, and then downloading and making sure that you have a copy of the document that governs your 401k.
Well, what's interesting to me is I've worked with young people on this, and I'll ask them, they've had a job for 6 months, maybe a year. And I'll say, have you logged into your 401k? And they'll say, no, I haven't. Do you know how to log into your 401k? Do you know what's going on there? Do you know if you're saving money? No. And so it's really important. Sometimes you have to get somebody to help you hold your hand, sit down at the computer, and walk you through this process because money and 401ks are intimidating. But there's going to be people that have some financial knowledge in your life that maybe you can lean on to help mentor you through this, like we're doing today in a general sense.
Yeah, and again, 401k, this is the backbone of most people's retirement. Pensions are gone. Now you're responsible for your retirement, typically through an employer-sponsored plan is where you can get in the most money. So we want to make sure you understand that because most people are saying that these things are confusing, they're hard to understand, and so we are making that easy. Now, whenever, Bill, I'm working with someone and we're looking through their 401k, the access from home we just mentioned, the next thing is naming or confirming your beneficiaries. And I not only want you to just do the primary, but I also want you to choose a contingent beneficiary. The main reason to choose both is that if something happens to your primary beneficiary, the last thing you want to do is think about going into your 401k and changing the beneficiary. If you already have a contingent, then that will be the default already if the primary is gone and you don't have to feel like you have to rush and update something. So naming beneficiaries is a big deal, but it's pretty easy to do.
And don't just do it once. You should make a calendar item on your calendar every end of the year. You may have gotten divorced, you may have gotten remarried, somebody may have died. You want to make sure that your hard-earned money, should it need to be passed on down the line, goes to the people you want it to go to. So across the board, in all of your accounts, not just your 401k, and your life insurance, all these things that have beneficiaries, make sure you update them every year.
Yep. Or if there's any life changes that happen. And I guess the other thing to mention, if this is an employer-sponsored plan that's covered by ERISA, which 401ks are, and some of the other employer-sponsored plans are as well, it's going to require you to have your spouse as the beneficiary unless they give written authorization for you to name someone else. So that's just a part of one of the ERISA rules. So our next one, Bill, is rate of return. So let's talk about that. Now, everybody that I know, when they sign onto their account, it's the defaulted first page is usually going to show their year-to-date rate of return. Now, why is that a problem? I'm not too crazy about that because if you think back to April of 2025, Bill, most people's 401k wasn't looking good. That's when the tariffs were just announced and everything was in the red. Well, that scares a lot of people. So don't let that get you off course. I want you to look at longer time periods. My brother was calling me almost every day and asking me, why is the market going down? My 401k is going down. Well, your 401k is generally going to be for much longer periods of time. So what it's doing year to date or even in just 1 year might not matter. Look at the 3-year, the 5-year, or the 10-year rate of return and take a look at that if you want to get a sense of how your account is performing and what your rate of returns are.
Yeah, I got a funny story for you here, Jackie. My sister, when she signed up for her 403B at a university, she just checked the box most aggressive. And she closed the thing down, and she also checked the box, max it out every year. And she didn't look at it for 20 years. Guess what? She did great. She was a millionaire in 20 years. It was magic. And there's a certain truth to this. You want to set it, forget it, and not fiddle and stick with your plan. There are things that you might need to optimize or tweak. But what's the best 401k that performed according to a Fidelity study? Those were the dead people that didn't do anything with their plan. So it's really important to create this foundation as you log in for the first time and set it up that you carry forward. And then all you have to do is leverage your savings rate, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, and I love that story about your sister, but I'm glad she was in aggressive or in something that actually grew. But some people around 2008, when everything was down, they put themselves into a money market fund and never changed it. So I'm glad that the thing she chose was not a money market fund, because then it wouldn't have grown at all. But we are going to look at just some guidelines you can follow in terms of deciding your funds and how you should think through that. So you also need to look at what benchmark are you comparing your rate of return to. Like, for instance, if you've got 50% in bonds and 50% in stocks, you can't look at what the stock market's doing and say, oh, I'm not doing as well, because your allocation is different. So make sure you are comparing it to the right thing. If you're in all stocks, or if you're just in a S&P 500 index fund, then yeah, you can compare that to what the S&P 500 is doing. But be careful about what benchmark you are using to gauge your rate of return.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of FOMO there, right? Am I doing as well as my neighbor? And you've got to set up your own plan according to your own goals. And it's really important to reverse engineer your timeline and think about, okay, and that's where target date funds might come in. When do I want to retire so that my financial life is different from everybody else's, and compare it against a benchmark and not necessarily what everybody else is doing, because everybody has different risk tolerances, goals, timelines. Personal finance is finance first, but it is very personal.
That's right. And then another helpful thing is to look at your balance over time, because between your contributions, your employer contributions, and possibly fees that might be in there and things like that, you want to take all that into account by simply looking at your balance over time. Typically, they might show you a timeline. They may show you year by year what your account has done. So you should be pretty proud of yourself, or it will confirm, yes, my account is growing over long periods of time, and I'm glad that it's going in the right direction. So take a look at that overall balance and make sure you see how it's changing and that you know why it's changing. And typically it's going to be because of what you are invested in.
All right. What's the next step, Jackie?
Let's look at contributions. This is a big part, and this gets into the savings rate that you mentioned. And your first question should be, what is your contribution rate? How much of your paycheck are you contributing? When you ask people how much are you putting in your 401k, typically they're going to give you a percentage. And at minimum, we want you to take advantage of your 401k match that you might be getting from your employer. Most employers these days, if they offer 401k, I know the TSP does as well, they may have a match. So that's the first thing you want to look at in terms of contributions. How much are you contributing? Because the biggest piece, Bill, on growing your wealth, how much are you actually saving and investing? It's not just about the investments you choose, especially if you're in accumulation mode. That's a big thing to think about when it comes to the contributions.
Well, Jackie, let's break it down a little bit. Maybe people don't understand what a savings rate is. Can you define that for us?
Yeah, the savings rate is simply going to be the percent of your paycheck you're putting in as it relates to your 401k. Your savings rate overall is going to be everything that you are saving, a percentage of that. For instance, if you make $100,000 and you are contributing 10%, then you have a 10% savings rate. The more you save, the faster your investments are going to grow, and the quicker you're probably going to make it to retirement. So this contribution savings rate is really important in terms of how does it fit into your goals and when you plan to retire. Higher savings rate, you probably can retire sooner. If you're only doing the match, then it probably will take 30 or 40 years. If you boost that up to 30, 40%, you might cut that time in half. So that part is really important. And in the FIRE community, we talk a lot about savings rate.
All right. Now, I also get confused by the match sometimes because they have complex formulas how to do this. What is a standard match? What does it mean? Why is it so important? Because people talk about it being free money.
Yeah, the employer match, it is sort of free money, but honestly, I like to think of it as a benefit provided by your employer. Not everybody takes the match. And that sounds really funny because I remember my company, they sent out something to say, hey, 89% of our employees are taking advantage of the company match. So in my mind, that meant 11% of people are not taking advantage of the match. So you want to get that company match. And a lot of times the company match may come with strings attached with something called vesting. They consider this a retention tool. For example, you always own your own contributions 100%, right? But for the company match, let's say have a vesting schedule that will say, okay, for the company portion, you need to be with us for 3 years to have ownership of that and to say it's yours if you leave the company. Some of them have a schedule, maybe a 5-year schedule where they'll go 20%, 20%. So you become vested over time. So keep in mind with that. And when we mentioned that summary plan description that governed the whole plan, it will have that outlined if there is a vesting schedule. So make sure you know whether or not there's a vesting schedule, because if you leave too soon, you may not be able to take that employer portion with you.
Yeah, some of them are cliffs where you don't get vested for 3 years. And I've had friends of my sons have that situation. And going into the job, he knew that if he wanted that money, he had to work there for 3 years. And sometimes it is gradual and it's okay. You can take 40, 50% of the match. But typically companies will match what? 3 to 6 to 9% of what your salary is or your contributions. How does that work?
It's definitely going to vary by company, but the most common match is 6%, or some companies will do, okay, we'll match 50 cents on the dollar up to 6%. Now, when I was working, my company had an unusually high match, and it was tied to your tenure with the company. So if you had been with the company, I think 7 years, their maximum match would be if you put in 7%, they would put in 9%, which is unheard of. But those are wealth building features that could help you grow your wealth more. So it's not just your contribution rate, but what your company is contributing. So you can see how powerful these get. And that's why, Bill, it's so frustrating to me when there are people that don't understand how to fully take advantage and maximize this as a wealth building tool, because they're distracted by the confusing funds or the fees or the terminology or any of that stuff. So this can be very powerful. You want to understand how your matching works. And then, of course, how much you are contributing. And you had mentioned this as well, Bill. Over time, you might want to increase your contributions, because that is what's going to help you get to your number faster or reach retirement faster. Some companies will have this auto-escalation feature. I don't know if you had that, Bill, when you were working with a company, but my company offered that feature with their 401k.
The thing is, people might sign up and say, okay, I'm going to take the match, I'm going to contribute to get the match, and then I'll be fine. In 20, 30, 40 years, I'll exit and I don't have to worry about retirement ever again. But that is not necessarily true, right, Jackie?
That's right. I think a smart thing would be maybe when you get raises or if you had other sources of income that was coming in, now you can have more taken out. But that should be something that does increase over time. Honestly, a lot of us are told that you save 10%. That's all it takes. That's what we recommend. And that's fine if you want to retire in 40 years. But if you want to shorten that time, your savings rate does need to be higher. And even if you're not able to do it when you first start your career, you start to increase that, you can easily get to a much higher savings rate.
Yeah, it's really important, especially for our late starter audience, because remember, our timeline is not necessarily 40 years. It's more like 10, 15, 20 years. And so we really need to crank up the savings rate lever to get where we want to go and potentially be more aggressive with our investments. But we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I am so excited to announce our new partnership at Catching Up to FI with Monarch. Monarch is a comprehensive financial tool to monitor your financial health and life. I have been using Monarch for 3 years to track my spending, net worth, budget, savings goals, and more. I am not a spreadsheet nerd, and without Monarch's robust, intuitive tools and user interface, this process would have seemed impossible. I was recently also able to seamlessly share my data with our new flat fee financial planner for a retirement readiness checkup when I turned 60. He uses Monarch with all of his clients. After our analysis, I was shocked to find out that we were financially independent 3 years before I thought we would be. You can't manage what you don't measure. Using Monarch was critical in this review and planning process and remains important in monitoring my ongoing financial health. Thanks to Monarch, all of our podcast listeners and community members have access to a 50% discount off their first year subscription. Simply follow the link below and use the discount code CatchingUp50 at checkout. I am proud to say that my sons are the first to use the code to join the Monarch family. I encourage you to share this link and code with family and friends who need or want to take back their money and grow their wealth.
The other part of contributions that comes up that is very important to look at is the tax treatment of your contributions. So most people know about the main two, which is pre-tax or traditional, or you can do a Roth. Most companies offer a Roth 401k. If you're with the Thrift Savings Plan, they do offer a Roth. So those are the two most people know about. However, there's also an after-tax option that you see. Maybe you're a high income earner. You have more that you can save beyond. I don't remember what the contribution is for 2026. I want to say it's around 23,000 and then an extra 6,000. So double check me on that. But you want to decide, okay, should I do pre-tax where I get the tax break now? Or should I do Roth where I don't get a tax break now, but that money not only grows tax-free, but when I'm ready to take it out, I pay no taxes on it. Most employers offer the option of both. The Roth is new, so you may be with an employer that doesn't do that part, but the IRS has a lot of provisions and not every employer has to use all of the provisions that they have. So think through that. Typically, Bill, I want to see if you agree with it. If you're a really high income earner, maybe you want some tax breaks and you do pre-tax. If you are just starting out, you're a low income earner, Roth might make more sense because you're not paying much in taxes anyway.
Yeah, when you're in the 10% or 12% marginal tax brackets early in your career, when your incomes are lower, that's a good time to pay tax when you pay less tax. That's a time where you're paying less tax. And if you don't know what to do in your low income years, you can do half and pre-tax and Roth. But when you get to your high income years, you really want those tax breaks when you're paying more tax, because in retirement, guess what? You're going to pay less tax again, and that's when it can come out at a lower tax rate.
That's right, Bill. And so the last area with contributions is what funds are you investing in? For your new contributions, where are they going? So this is where you do need to have those funds selected. We're going to talk about that when we get into investments briefly, but you want to know for your dollars, you got your savings rate, you got your company match. Where is that money being invested? Now, there's one thing I want to show, Bill, is the savings rate and growing your account because we love Mr. Money Mustache. What's the name of that famous article?
The shockingly simple math of early retirement, but it's actually the shockingly simple math of any retirement.
That's correct. That's right. So let me go ahead and make this full screen.
Yeah, I encourage everybody to go to YouTube for this one.
Yeah, I just recreated this. There's a lot of different retirement calculators, but it's not hard to figure out where this chart is just showing your percentage of savings rate. How long will it take you to get to retirement? With a 10% savings rate, we've been mentioning this, is 36 years. But then what if you bump that up to 30%? That shaves your time down to 22 years, all the way up to a 60% savings rate, 11 years. So that's just to show you some clear differences in depending on how much you're saving, how long you can expect to have to work before you can retire. And if you are new to some of this and you're a little uncomfortable, I do provide some additional resources that I know are really, really good. I have a beginner guide. Personal Finance Club does a great job of clicking the buttons and things like that. It's just like a YouTube that I thought was very helpful. If you're sort of in the general place, we all love J.L. Collins and The Simple Path to Wealth. He even has on his website his stock series. And the last one, if you're advanced and you want a little guidance there, you've got some Boglehead stuff that gives you guidance on how to pick your funds or review your funds in a 401k. So I just want to share that because some people, they do want a little extra help when it comes to that. And this is a part that can get scary for some people.
Yeah, and you got to remember that these are dependent on what investments you do pick because the assumptions based on this timeline are a 9% annual rate of return. And then for retirement, you may have heard about the 4% rule, but it's based on the assumption that you're doing a 4% drawdown in retirement. So these change based on that. And so what you choose to invest in and how aggressively you choose to draw down in retirement can change this as well. These are rules of thumb and everybody's different.
Yeah, I think the investment piece, which is the next section, this is the scariest part for people, Bill, especially if you're a beginner. You see this crazy list of funds and you're not sure what to pick. So when it comes to investments, these are the areas we want you to know about and to understand. So you want to review and update the list of available funds and know what you are currently invested in. We just talked about where new contributions go. You want it to be the same thing, right? Wherever your new investments are going, if you happen to already be invested in something, you want that to match up. So you get this list. I call it, Bill, the big ugly list of funds. And I'm going to show that in just a minute, but let's hit the other areas that you should know about. The other part is because the way the funds are named, you got this long name. It has the fund company name in there, and sometimes it's just really hard to tell what it is. So it may be easier to look at the category. For instance, a category might be large cap stock funds, or another category might be bond funds, or another category might be target date funds. So sometimes the category will give you a better indication of what this fund is about, because again, the fund name can be long and it can get confusing. Also, Bill, when you're looking at this for yourself, consider your time horizon. Things might be a little different if you are 5 years away from retirement versus if you are 30 years away from retirement. You want to look at fees. When you're inside of your 401k, you see there's a link. You click on that link and it's going to show you the fees. It's going to show you the risk level. It's going to show you past performance. Now, no single one of these factors should be the only factor, but putting these together is what's going to help you make sense. And remember that this investing piece, your choice can be as simple as a target date fund. Almost every company offer these now. They put the allocation together for you. And they're not all created equal. So I want you to click through and look at what the split is. So typically what can people expect to find inside of a target date fund, Bill?
People are going to be defaulted into this, and hopefully it's a passive target date fund and not an actively managed target date fund. And they're very different, and we can talk about that. It's very important because what you save in fees goes into your pocket and compounds for you. So low cost is ideal. In a passive target date fund, say from Vanguard, for example, a very common provider, will have a stock fund, a bond fund, or two. It may be US with some international in it. And that's about it. And it's going to have percentages based on basically your time to retirement. If you're 25, it will be aggressive and say 90% stocks and 10% bonds. And as you age into retirement, it will have what's called a glide path down to your retirement age, and you pick a year. You're going to pick, okay, I'm going to retire in 40 years, so it will get more conservative over that time until your retirement date. And you need to look under the hood. The important message with a target date fund is it seems simple, but it's really not. It's complex, and you have to know what the moving parts are and the pieces are and how it changes over time. Do you have any thoughts on this, Jackie?
Yeah, I'm going to argue with you about the simplicity because they are designed to be pretty simple. This is the person that logs on and says, oh my gosh, I'm getting a headache looking at this. What is the simple thing to do? You choose the year that's closest to the year you expect to retire. And that's it. It can be just that simple. Now, for some people, they want to handpick their own thing. But if you do choose the year of your retirement, choose that target date fund, click through, make sure you're clear on how it's split out and all of that. But it could be just that simple. Now, when it comes to a target date fund, typically, if you choose nothing, Bill, and there's some people that will do nothing. So what will the company default you in? Typically, it's going to be the target date fund that's closest to the year in which you're expected to retire based on your age. They assume the year you turn 65. So if you choose nothing, the company's going to default you in. And Bill, a lot of employers now, they will auto-enroll employees when they start with the company. This is something new because when I was starting my job, you had to wait 6 months. But a lot of times you're auto-enrolled and they will auto-enroll you into a target date fund. It used to be where they would put you in a money market fund, which can be problematic because that sometimes barely keeps up with inflation. So that's the target date fund. But if you choose a target date fund, that's all you need. You don't need to mix in other stuff. It's designed to be your investment strategy where they are automating everything for you. Now, if you decide, hey, I actually want to pick funds on my own. So I'm going to share, again, I call this the big, ugly list. All right. We're going to go full screen mode because it's tiny little names. And Bill, this is my 401k before I retired. So this was from December 2023. And it does give you a lot of information on one page. Again, there's usually the option to click through to get details. So this is scary for most people, right? And this is part of what adds to the complexity of a 401k. But if you decide you want to pick your own funds, it could be as simple as 1 to 3 index fund. Maybe you're 25 and you say, you know what, I want to be in a passive stock index fund, an S&P 500 index fund, the closest thing to that. So you go find that. And what's really problematic, Bill, and this is what frustrates me so bad, is that a lot of these 401ks will have some high fee options. And among this haystack of all these different funds, they might have 1 or 2 low cost passive index fund, and you have to go find it. Now, this is my list of funds, and it has a section for large cap funds. And I was looking for an S&P 500 fund. None of these say S&P 500 index fund. And here's what you can do. Another tip with using AI, take your list of funds, put them into AI, whatever your favorite tool is. The exact prompt I put in, I said, take this list of fund options and write them in plain English. So I got back something that made it a little bit easier. So large cap funds, it gave me the simple definition. These are big, well-known U.S. companies. And then the title of the fund that I was looking for that's closest to an S&P 500 fund, it said BlackRock Russell 1000 Index. How am I supposed to make sense of that? That is not friendly to me. So AI comes back and says it tracks the large US companies and its US stock index fund. So that makes sense. And then I have a few other here, but they simplified it for me. So if this list is scary to you, like it was to me, use AI to help simplify this for you so you have a better idea of what these funds are. And of course, always take that extra step, click the link, and go to the fund summary that shows you all these things about your fund.
Yeah, it is alphabet soup and it is complicated. And I've sat down with my sons looking at these things too, and everyone looks a little bit different. It doesn't have to be complicated. A target date fund is a great way to get started. And then as your investment knowledge, financial knowledge grows, you can become more discriminatory and say, you know what? I can take on more risk. I want to retire earlier. I'm going to save more, invest more, spend less, because those are the two levers of a savings rate. And I'm going to say, rather than be 50-50 stocks and bonds, I want 100% stocks. Now, that's going to be a wild ride. You got to be willing to tolerate that for maximum growth. You may only need to pick one S&P 500 large cap growth stock fund, and that's it. That could be your one thing that you just keep dumping money into as fast as you can. And to mention the auto escalation of your savings rate, say, for example, you get a 3% savings increase in your pay every year. Let's take 1% of that for me and 2% of that for future me. And that's one way I think you can think about this, is that raise isn't all going into spending, that's going into preparing for retirement as well. And then I'm going to dump it all in my one large cap growth fund and be done with it and shut it up and look for another day. Now, you can get a little trickier because you may want to do what's called diversification, and you may want to add some international stocks and own the whole world. You can own the US, large companies, you can own the whole world if you mix those two, but you don't need more than 1 to 3. You don't need to get tricky and have 5, 10, 15 stocks. That's going to work against you. Simplicity, in some ways, is really your friend.
Oh my gosh, Phil, you know how proud I am of you. You did such a great job simplifying that. I know you love your risk parity stuff. You love customizing things, but you did a masterful job in breaking that down. My partner's a hero. So thank you for that. It can be just that simple. And like Bill said, if you want to get more sophisticated, if you want to come up with other unique strategies, then you can start going in there and you can make adjustments if you want to, but you do not have to. I remember at one point I was overcomplicating this, Bill. I had 8 different funds and several of them were overlapping and they covered the same type of things. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm making this way too complicated. And I think I got down to 2 funds and it made more sense. So simplify your life. There are thousands of different investment strategies. You don't need to be chasing those. And frankly, you're limited to a certain number of funds here anyway. And Bill, you had asked me a question before we started recording about why don't these funds have ticker symbols to make it easy to go plug it into any app or investing place where you can take a look at it yourself. A lot of these funds are proprietary. When the company gets a custodian, they sometimes will customize and build some of these from scratch, and they don't have a ticker symbol. That's why when you leave the company and you want to roll your money over, which we will talk about that a little bit, normally you will have to cash out because a lot of the funds aren't publicly available. Again, adding more complexity, adding more friction. Why do they have to do that? Just to be heads up on that if you end up leaving the company and having to roll over your account.
Friction and complexity serve the industry, not the customer, not the 401k owner. One way to break down this table is to say, okay, what's the 10-year return? Because I really don't care about the short term. I'm in it for the long term. We all know that the stock market has never lost money in 20 years. In 10 years, it's lost money only 5 to 10% of the time. So you got to think 20, 30 years down the road. So just forget about the short-term performance. Look at long-term and say, okay, that return rate looks good, but At the same time, you want to look at how much does it cost me to get that return? What is the risk involved in that return? If the expense ratio, say, here's one that's 0.42%, or what we call 42 basis points, that is likely an actively managed fund that's costing you more for less, for complexity. And you want to look potentially at the lowest cost funds that are passive and simple, just like you found your BlackRock that mimics the S&P 500, or a total U.S. stock market fund. We've heard J.L. Collins say to the ends of the earth, VTSAX and chill. Now it's maybe VTI and chill, because ETFs are the financial technology of the future. And these 401ks need to catch up with that too. Look at the simple numbers and boil this down.
That's right. So again, this is a list of ugly funds. This will burn some people's eyes, but it might make sense if you, again, click through and you get a summary of any of these funds that you want. Every 401k has to provide that. But to Bill's point, these funds are not all created equal, and some of them are passive. Some of them are actively managed. It's like, how do you know that? One of the best indicators is to look at the expense ratio, which is the very last column if you are watching us on YouTube. And Bill, we've had this back and forth about what is considered low fee.
Yeah, the number actually was put into law in a way, according to the recent tax law last year, as 0.1% or 10 basis points. If you're paying more than that, because you can buy the S&P 500 for, say, 3 basis points or 4 basis points, next to nothing. We live in a golden age era of low-cost investing that's friendly to the investor. Why pay more for the same thing?
Yeah. And Bill, you're talking about the one big beautiful bill. And the place where they mentioned that low fee was 0.1% was in the child savings accounts. And they said it must be a broad market stock index fund with an expense ratio of less than 0.1%. So I'm like, okay, that's my new benchmark. And I did take it a bit further to say, is this really what would be considered low fee? So I went into Chat GPT and I put in and I said, are there S&P 500 index fund that charge more than 0.1% expense ratio? And it basically came back and said, not many. And if you look at a whole basket of S&P 500 index funds, it'd be super hard to find something that's more than 0.5 or 0.6%. Vank, the one I had available in my 401k, was 0.02. So it shouldn't be that hard to find. But what I've noticed, Bill, I've looked at 401ks of my daughter, my neighbor, my brother, my sister, and friends. And here's what I have been seeing. I've been seeing a lot of higher fee funds. And usually there are one or two passive low-cost index funds, and you have to go find them. Most 401ks will throw something in there. Now, if you're with a thrift savings plan, almost everything in there is low fee. But if you're with any other employer, it's going to be based on that employer. So even if that list looks, everything is high fee, there might be one or two low fee funds, and you got to go find them.
It's important to look at the details, because let it compound in your pocket. And don't send the fund manager's kids to college. Send your kids to college. Retire earlier. Fees are important, and you need to pay attention to those. What's next, Jackie, on your little list of unmessifying these funds?
Yeah, unmessifying. I love that. So we are cleaning this up now. We have actually got to the last check off where we're counting the minutes to say you can do this in less than an hour. So we've been doing this for about 40 minutes, and we have gotten through all the main parts of cleaning up your 401k in less than an hour. In summary, we want you to keep it simple. You stick with the plan, and remember that you're building wealth. Now, we have a couple of adjacent type things that we get questions about all the time that we do want to mention before we wrap up. And that's mainly two things: tracking down your old 401ks. And then the other one is deciding what to do when you leave your company. Those are two questions we get all the time. And the average, I was looking at some statistics around how often people change jobs these days. And the average is 12 times during a working career. 12 times. That's a lot of 401ks. That often gets left behind, especially when we're young. So you want to track those down. This could help you, especially if you're a late starter and you're trying to pull it together. How cool is it if you remembered, oh, when I was 25, I worked at that company. I think I had a 401k. Let me go check it out. I was there for 3 years, and you're able to find it. I'm going to throw out some numbers here that are just staggering, Bill. Okay. So there's $2.1 trillion in forgotten 401k assets spread across 31.9 million accounts that have been left behind. The source for this is Capitalized and the Center for Retirement Research. They do this every few years. The other crazy statistic around left behind 401ks is that the number of forgotten accounts has almost doubled over the last decade, mainly due to job changes and layoffs. So this is happening. A lot of people will ask, well, how could you forget about your 401k? You must not need the money. $2.1 trillion in left behind and lost 401ks doesn't lie. And that's why this was an important piece. So, Bill, do you think you have any old accounts that you haven't tracked down?
I don't think so. I've done a little bit of lost down on the 401k. And basically, when I left a position, I would roll it forward unless there was something egregious in the new plan. If you have a lot of money in an old plan that has a lot of low cost funds that you like, okay, there may be a reason to leave it there. But it's easy to leave a trail of 401ks behind you that you can't follow backwards. I like simplicity. I have all of my accounts right now, at least at Fidelity. It's simple, one login, everything's there. All the previous 401ks, IRAs are all rolled in together. The money is invested very similarly. And it's hard to keep, say, for example, with old 401ks, your asset allocation balanced. It's easier if you have it all in one place. So I recommend, unless there's something really against it, rolling them forward or say into an IRA where you can manage your own money according to how you want to and don't have to be beholden to your employer 401k.
That's right, Bill. And that's why we are going to get into that, because that is a huge question and concern that people have. They don't know what to do when they leave a job. But tracking down old 401ks, here are just a few ways you can do that. I suggest just check your own records first. Go into your email or other digital records and try to figure that out. Sometimes I think this might be a helpful, Bill. Like if you go to ssa.gov and look at your earnings statement, sometimes that might jog your memory or whatever. Oh yeah, I worked at Chipotle for 3 years when I was in college and they had a 401k and I remember I was contributing, but I forgot all about it. You can also check with your old employer, an old administrator. The biggest administrators of 401ks is Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, Empower. There's a few other ones, but you can check with them if you happen to remember the name of the custodian. You can also call or check online and contact the HR department at your old company. But to me, those might be the easiest way to do it. But if you just still are hitting a brick wall and you think you have something out there, there are these databases. The Department of Labor has a database. This was created in 2022 with the Secure Act. It's called lostandfound.dol.gov. Go there. You can search for old retirement accounts. If you happen to have a pension, this has been around for a long time, but it's called the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation. You can go there. That's just pbgc.gov. Search there. Again, this is mainly going to be pension type plans and things like that. And then if you happen to be a part of the Thrift Savings Account, the TSP, I found this out, Bill. Your account will always remain within the TSP. They can't turn it over to a third party or anything like that. It's always going to be part of TSP. So if you were a federal government worker, if you were military personnel where you had a TSP, you can just contact the TSP and they should have it. So that might lessen the chance of things actually getting lost. Now, if you're still having a hard time, there are these unclaimed property databases, because these custodians and these employers, they can't keep your money forever. They will attempt to contact you. And after a certain period of time, they have to turn it over to the state. And you can go to some place like missingmoney.com. That's a legit website. They just aggregate all the states and you can find unclaimed assets there. Or you can put in the name of your state and unclaimed funds or unclaimed property. It might be in there. And then this guide that I have for you, it has all of the different databases you can go to search for your old 401k. How cool is it if you're able to go back, find money from an old 401k or an old retirement plan, that every little bit helps. So I love the idea of trying to track down your old retirement plans, your old 401k money.
Yeah, most people have a resume these days, hopefully, and you can always look at that and say, oh, I forgot that I worked there. Let's track it down.
Oh, that's a great resource. Yeah. So there's all kinds of little things that might trigger your memory to see if you have any of these. Again, trillions of dollars of lost and forgotten 401k money. So, Bill, you alluded to rollovers. So, what do you have to say about when you leave a job? How should you be thinking through what to do with that old 401k?
First of all, don't leave it behind. And like lost luggage, your next job will have a 401k. You're going to go through this again. You're going to set it up and figure it out. And then you can go to that current custodian and ask them to pull money from the previous custodian forward into your new account and invest it according to your wishes in your new account. Every plan is going to have different ways to do this. One thing I recommend to people is that you try and have it done digitally from custodian to custodian. But Jackie, you had an experience here that makes me a little nervous that you want to make sure people have a heads up on when money gets moved around.
Shoot, it made me nervous too. I had Empower at the time and I wanted to roll the money over. And like you, I wanted to do it digitally. They couldn't. They said they had to send me a check, and I opened up the new IRA that I wanted the money to roll over to. And I had the account number, so I filled that out online, but they had to send me a check with my name and the name of the new IRA custodian. And I was scared. I'm watching the mailbox every day and I'm thinking, this was 2020. How on earth could it be 2020 where you're still mailing out a paper check? So I tried to turn that check around as soon as I could. It had my name and the custodian. But if I would have held on to it too long, I had 60 days to get it to the IRA. So hopefully you're able to do this online. If that's an option, you definitely want to take it, because waiting for a paper check in the mail is a little bit crazy.
Yeah, and if it goes beyond 60 days, you have tax penalties because it's treated like a distribution to you, which has a 10% penalty on top of it. So you really want to go from like account to like account. If it's 401k pre-tax dollars, it needs to go to a pre-tax 401k or IRA. If it's Roth dollars, it rolls into a similar account, a Roth or a Roth IRA. And it's custodian to custodian, and you don't want to touch it. Honestly, in my opinion, if you can avoid it, you want the custodians to deal with it and then make sure it gets reallocated according to your investment plan.
Yeah, and Bill, thank you for mentioning the tax treatment. You want to go from this one tax treatment to the same one with the IRA. For me, part of my 401k was pre-tax and part of it was Roth. I did have to do those separately, so more than likely your employer is going to have to do it separately. And another point I wanted to make is typically when you are rolling over your 401k to an IRA, they have to cash you out for the reason that I mentioned before. There's no ticker symbols. A lot of these are proprietary funds that are not publicly available. And for that reason, they will cash you out. And then when it rolls over to the new IRA, you need to make sure you are investing it the way you want it invested. Don't just leave it sitting in cash. And then remember, you also have to name your beneficiaries. Even if you had the beneficiaries named on your 401k, when you start that whole nother IRA where it rolls over there, you're pretty much starting over. Choose your funds, how you want that money invested, and choose your beneficiaries in that IRA.
Yeah, wouldn't it be easier if all of these plans had ETFs that transfer in kind? You can keep your asset allocation, you can keep your investments. Who needs all this proprietary crap that costs you more than it should from companies that are sucking on your milkshake, taking money out of your pocket? Come on, people, get real. Let's catch up with the 2026s.
Yeah, this is why I am frustrated, Bill. Now, I know there are laws and regulations that govern all of this stuff, but these employers and the custodians can make it a lot easier. And I just don't feel most of them are employee centric enough. So you're on your own to do this. And that's the purpose of this show, to be able to pull back the curtain and show you a simple way to do this. So just to summarize, you've got four main options when you leave your job. You can roll over your 401k to an IRA, which is what we've been talking about. You can roll it to your new employer, but your new employer has to have their rules that allow you to bring in funds from another employer. My company early on, they did not allow you to roll in an old 401k into the new one. So your company has to offer that. Then you could leave it with that employer. The reason why I'm not crazy about this is that I don't want you to forget about it. And sometimes they will charge you additional fees if you are no longer employed by the company, but that is an option. And then you can obviously cash it out, which, Bill, unfortunately, a lot of people do that, especially if they have small balances. So if you cash it out, just remember you will be responsible for taxes if it's pre-tax. And if you are under 59 and a half, you will incur the 10% early withdrawal penalty. And with a 401k, they do an automatic 20% withholding that's required by the IRS. So cashing out can be an expensive option. And even if it's a small amount, that starts to add up and compound. So if you rolled that over and you invested it and you left it alone, it could grow pretty good, especially while you're young. But if you cash it out, you're going to pay the early withdrawal penalty. There's going to be taxes on that. So keep that in mind.
You want to keep your money in the market. You want to keep it invested. And when you roll it over, number one, it may still be in cash. You have to reinvest it and make sure that you're going from like account to like account. I like to leave these monies invested. People get tempted because they have debt or they have issues or obligations or they want to do this or that. This money is for future you. Invest it for the long term. Don't pay attention to the short term. Make sure it's low cost. Make sure it's in 1, 2, or no more than 3 funds. I recommend, honestly, and this is not investment advice, just a U.S. growth fund or a target date fund appropriate to your timeline. It really is as simple as that. This industry makes it look a lot more complicated. Please don't be intimidated by your 401k statement. Reach out to us, reach out to a friend who's gone through this before. This will get easier. This is a growth curve, a learning curve. You're going to go through 12 jobs. You might as well learn it with the first one because you're going to be doing it again. It's not buying a house once or twice in your lifetime. This is something that you'll get better at, but it's really important to get a solid pre-tax retirement foundation down, an investment strategy, and take the default if you like, but then continue to educate yourself because there are nuances to this. Don't stop your financial education just by clicking target date fund, set it and forget it, and don't learn anymore. This can inhibit your learning. Continue to learn, keep it simple, but not too simple necessarily.
That's right. So, like you mentioned, since people change jobs so often, they're going to be presented with this again and again. And it's a good exercise because this can be a wealth building tool. And the more you know, the easier it will be to use it to your advantage. Now, with the options that you have with your 401k, if you don't choose an option, they'll send you notice after notice based on your last address. If you don't choose an option, they're going to choose for you, and they will usually have a hierarchy of what they do with your account. Usually it's based on how much it is and things like that. Keep in mind, if you don't do something, your employer will. And Bill, that pretty much covers everything, but most people find their 401k or their employer-sponsored plan to be very confusing, very difficult, and unfriendly. And that was frustrating me, and I was annoyed that I was not seeing someone come up with an independent guide like this to help employees, no matter who their employer is or who their custodian is, to make sure they're feeling comfortable with knowing what to do with a 401k. What are the main areas they should look at? This is important, but no one to me has done an adequate job of stepping up and helping out employees, because the fact that this is the foundation of most people's retirement plan now, why are we making it so hard? So our goal today was to make this easier. We will have this posted on YouTube as well as the podcast as well. But if you have more questions, maybe we didn't answer everything, maybe it triggered another question, Put your questions in the chat under the YouTube video. We will be responding to questions. Let's keep the conversation going. And everything we talked about today will be in this free guide that would allow you to step through it. It's one page of a checklist, and then there's several references that will help you better understand what you should do and things like that, and even include some resources that we thought were simple enough to share with you. So get the free guide, clean up your 401k, and use this account as the wealth building tool. This is worth spreading. So join us for what we're calling the Great 401k Cleanup.
All right, Jackie. Hopefully we offer it on the website or we send it to our newsletter participants. Sign up for that. Clean up your 401k. This is 2026. It's Financial Literacy Month. And let's make investing for our future self and retirement accessible and easier.
That's right, Bill. The last thing I want to say, I want to make a call out and throw out a challenge to our fellow podcasters, YouTubers, bloggers, journalists, authors, any other content creators in the personal finance space that people have so many questions about their 401k. So join us in this effort. If you want to write about it, if you want to have an episode on it, especially for Financial Literacy Month, reach out to us. Let's get connected and let's keep talking about this to make a difference as independent content creators to better people's lives and to help in an area that most people are honestly very frustrated with, that's not maximizing this important account for planning for their retirement. So connect with us. Let's all do this together. And for our late starters, remember, it is never too late to start. It's better late than never. And it's always the right time to catch up to FI.
All right, Jackie, talking to you every week really makes me feel better, and you've made this simple. So thank you, Jackie, for cleaning up some more 401ks in this world. We'll see you next week on Catching Up to FI.
So, Bill, as you know, we cannot do this show without our amazing staff and the people that help us put this on. And our editor is Fritz Brazard. We love them, and they keep us going.
Yeah, Jackie, I mean, this show wouldn't have the quality it has without our folks, our peeps. And we'd also like to give you a few calls to action for the show. We love our community, and we hope you love us back. If you would like to support the show and our mission to help late starters, you can do that at Buy Me a Coffee, which is a platform that allows you to make a donation. The link is in the show notes and on the website.
Check out the show notes for resources mentioned in today's show. Also, head on over to our website at catchinguptofi.com and check out our vetted resources, partners, and affiliates for discounts and their services, because we love sharing great deals.
Please share the show with others and head on over to our Facebook community to help us grow. If you prefer video, head on over to YouTube and watch the show there. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Catching Up to FI. We would appreciate it if you could also leave us a 5-star review to help our message reach others.
And while we are financial educators that love to teach, remember that our content is for general education and information purposes only. We are not providing financial, legal, or tax advice. Always do your own research or consult a professional before making important decisions.
So, Jackie, we'll see our audience next time on Catching Up to FI. Cheers.